Live across Queensland, this is 7 News with Max Futcher.
Good afternoon. Our top stories on 7. The Iran war hits home. A big dive on the stock market and growing worries about petrol supplies. Could our economy be a casualty? Like father, like son, Iran appoints a new hardline leader and vows no surrender. Hundreds of roads cut and floodwaters moving downstream. The latest from the Western Downs. And controversial AFL personality Sam Newman opens up about his close call with strokes. 9 days into the Iran war and the impacts are beginning to hit home here. It's been a brutal day on the stock market, recording its sharpest sell-off since the start of the COVID pandemic, while oil prices continue to soar. As National Security Editor Tim Lester reports, it's supercharging economic fears.
What happens when the world loses confidence in the supply of oil? Well, we're watching it right now. As the year began, about $60 a barrel. Then, as Middle East tensions grew, climbing, today the price of oil has gone vertical to about $110 a barrel, with markets not confident that the Iran conflict will resolve quickly.
This is the kind of scenario that's been war gamed since the 1970s.
Australian oil analyst Saul Kavanagh speaking from Tokyo on the perfect storm around energy as the Iranian regime, in a fight for its existence, blocks the channel that typically delivers 20% of exported oil. So what might rise with rocketing oil?
Food prices in particular are something that is going to be hit here, not just because of the increasing price of oil, but the increasing price of fertiliser.
Literally, our farmers have nothing left in the tanks on their properties, which means they can't run their tractors, they can't go and produce your food and fibre.
Energy Minister Chris Bowen says Australia has up to 5 weeks of fuel in reserve.
Every single expected delivery of petrol, diesel and jet fuel has arrived on time, on schedule, as expected. There's absolutely no reason for panic anything. Panicking, full stop, panic buying or panic anything.
We don't have to worry about panic buying, there is no fuel.
Barnaby Joyce referring to farmers who've been told they won't be getting diesel orders and some regional service stations running dry. The Energy Minister says it's a fear-driven spike in demand, supply is fine. Others say successive governments have failed to build proper fuel security in Australia, and the Iran conflict is about to stress our reserves like never before.
Tim Lester in Canberra. Now to the situation on the ground in the Middle East, and Iran has a new supreme leader. 9 days after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in US strikes, his son, Mujtaba Khamenei, has been named his successor. Let's go live to Jacqueline Robson, who's in Tel Aviv. Jackie, there have been celebrations on the streets of Tehran.
There has, Max. Thousands took to the streets to celebrate. They were waving the Iranian flag, saying he is all deserving. It was Iranian state TV who made the announcement that Mujtaba Khamenei was the new supreme leader of Iran. He is the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's second eldest son, a 56-year-old mid-level cleric that is as hardline as his father. He's never held a government office. He's kept a low profile, but was said to be the gatekeeper to his father, so wielded considerable influence. He has close ties to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which has already pledged allegiance to the new supreme leader. But this has every chance of escalating the conflict. For US President Donald Trump, this is the worst case scenario. The Assembly of Experts, a clerical body, elected the new leader, and this is said to be a show of defiance by the regime, a regime both America and Israel want to see fall. The Assembly says the election was made on the demand of the late Ayatollah that the new leader be hated by the enemy.
I think the hope had been that there might be someone who would become the leader, who would be a bit more pragmatic, might signal a willingness to give up on the nuclear program, to stop arming these murderous proxies in the region, and to stand down on its missile program. And that does not appear to be the case right now.
And Jackie, more Australians are closer to fleeing the war-torn Middle East.
Yes, Max, I caught up with a handful of Australians here in Tel Aviv who were caught in the conflict at a conference. They've organised their own bus. They're travelling over the Jordanian border to try and fly out of Amman today. There was also a Canadian embassy organising a bus with the offer for Australians to get on board, travelling across into Egypt to fly out. 90 Australians travelled from Qatar to Saudi Arabia by bus, all of them trying to find airports that are willing to send planes into the sky as missiles and drones continue to fly around the Middle East. The Australian government has demanded that families of diplomats in the UAE now get out because this situation is deteriorating. Max?
Desperate times. Jack and Robson there in Tel Aviv. Meantime, the US has confirmed another American casualty in the Middle East conflict. Rob Scott reports.
The Pentagon has confirmed today that the United States has now suffered its 7th casualty of this war with Iran. The service member who was badly hurt in an Iranian strike on a base in Saudi Arabia dying overnight. This coming just a day after Donald Trump oversaw the return of the bodies of the first 6 American soldiers who were killed.
We're going to blow the hell out of these people. This regime is in a death row now. It is going to be on its knees. It's going to fall. And when it falls, we're going to have peace like no other time.
The confirmation of this 7th fatality coming as the US military warns Iranian civilians the regime is now using heavily populated areas to launch drone and ballistic missile attacks. It says under international law, sites used for military campaigns like this lose their protected status and could become legitimate targets for counterstrikes. Warning, the US military takes every feasible precaution to minimise harm to civilians, but cannot guarantee civilian safety in or near facilities used by the Iranian regime for military purposes, insisting it does not intentionally target civilians, but it's urging ordinary Iranians to avoid those areas at all costs and stay home. This as Republicans, emboldened by the success of Operation Epic Fury, are predicting a step up in the level of joint US-Israeli action over the next couple of weeks. As this war now enters its 2nd week, Donald Trump continues to insist the United States and Israel are doing the whole world a favour. And once this conflict is at an end, it'll be a much safer place.
Thanks, Rob. And police in Norway are hunting a suspected bomber after an explosion outside the US Embassy in Oslo. It happened in the early hours of Sunday morning local time. No one was hurt, but police say there was significant damage to the entrance area. Authorities are treating it as a targeted attack. Police haven't said what kind of device was used. Back home now, Queenslanders have been rescued from cars and towns cut off as floodwaters rise across much of the state. Reporter Rachel Baxter is in Chinchilla. Rachel, there are flood warnings for more than 20 rivers.
Yeah, that's right, Max. It is so widespread from the southeast to central Queensland, and right here on the Western Downs there are flood warnings and flood levels are rising this afternoon. I'm here in Chinchilla where some areas around here more than 200 millimetres of rain has fallen in the last 36 hours. The Warrego Highway was cut for some time between here and Miles this morning. That has reopened with a caution. 5 people were rescued from a Chinchilla campground after the Charlies Creek broke its bank this morning. Major flooding is right now happening at Benara Creek in the Central Highlands, and phone video shows one person trapped on the roof of their vehicle. Emergency services also had to rescue 2 people stranded by floodwaters near Bundaberg. Closer to home here, an emergency alert has been issued for Jandowie near Dolby, and further north a watch and act for the Central Highlands. In Ruby Vale, water is rising around and under homes, and in Sapphire, locals woke to this, an emergency alarm this morning.
About 5 o'clock this morning, the alarm started going off, flash flood warnings, and to prepare to evacuate. So we packed our bags and started lifting some stuff off the floor and preparing to leave.
And there's also school closures right across the state. Today, 10 schools are closed between Cairns and the Sunshine Coast. More than 150 roads are closed, and the SES has received more than 100 calls for help, mostly around the Fraser Coast and Gladstone regions. The good news, Max, is the Weather Bureau is predicting that this rain will ease either this evening or tomorrow.
All right, Rachel Baxter there in Chinchilla. And on that note, we go to Tony Auden now. Tony, so this rain is likely to clear in the next few hours?
Yes, Max, we are getting towards the end of this weather event, but the danger isn't over yet, as we've heard. The radar shows what I'd like to call moderate rain across the Gold Coast, Ipswich and Brisbane for most of today, with that band of heavier rain and storms locked in near a trough and low around the Wide Bay and Capricornia. At the moment, a severe weather warning mentions the risk of flash flooding right across this region from the Central Highlands and coalfields across to the coast between Gympie and Rockhampton, but it hasn't been updated in a few hours, so this western border here is likely to contract east on that next issue. A severe thunderstorm warning is current in this red area here. That shows the immediate threat of intense rain and flash flooding, and that sits between Gladstone, Billawheeler and Bundaberg. Now looking ahead, the rest of this rain should hurry off the coast with that low by around midnight, if not earlier, but we need to watch for those floodwaters for a few more days. Max, I'll be back soon with the latest warnings and tomorrow's forecast.
All right, thanks, Tony. Former AFL star and TV host Sam Newman is known for his unfiltered and at times highly controversial views, but he's now using his profile to warn of the dangers of mini strokes after he suffered not one, but two. He spoke to reporter Christy Mayer.
Sam Newman has spoken out about the confusion he felt as he suffered 2 mini strokes, prompting his partner Sue Stanley to call an ambulance.
This is no laughing about it, seriously. I think you had it having a stroke.
It feels I can't speak. Well, I was at home and went to pick something up and dropped it 3 times, and then Sue here said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to pick this up," and she said, "Your speech is a bit slurred."
The veteran broadcaster has spent the last 10 days in the Alfred Hospital undergoing treatment, including emergency surgery, after doctors discovered a clogged artery was disrupting the blood flow to his brain.
They found the artery all right, but the brain was a different matter.
I knew the first time that something was wrong and he was having a stroke, and sat him down and did the old facial. He smiled and he had arms, and he didn't have anything.
The 80-year-old has praised the quick thinking of partner Sue as potentially saving his life.
Once he had the second episode, I said, "Nah, that's it."
She said, "You're having a stroke, I think." I said, "No." Anyhow, she knew. She rang 000.
Here he comes now.
No, that's not.
It is an ambulance.
Is it?
And the care he received from the team at the Alfred.
Under fantastic care from the people in there.
Known for his controversial antics over the years, today Sam admitted he probably would have dismissed his symptoms, but he is now urging others to take their health seriously. More than 45,000 Australians suffer a stroke every year. That's one person every 11 minutes.
I thought, am I still slurring my speech? And Sue said, "Yep." I said, "Well, you better film this."
The former footy show star says he hopes by documenting his experience and speaking out, he can help save lives.
Coming up on 7's Afternoon News, safe spending, the secure feature helping protect millions of Australians from fraudsters. The results of the latest search for Malaysian Airlines flight MH370. And fire engulfs a historic railway station in the heart of Glasgow. Tonight, ASX bloodbath, billions wiped, oil prices surge. The Iranian footballer's desperate act as wild scenes erupt outside Seabus. Remarkable rescues in Queensland's weather emergency. Tony Auden's forecast. And meet the painter from Pullenvale who's attracting the attention of celebrities. 7 News at 6.
One sporting icon meets another. Shervo sits down with NBA legend Steph Curry for his only Aussie interview.
Look at that! Yeah! On top of the world!
When I knew that I was getting to hang out with y'all, I said, come on, let's do it.
Get your day started right.
Start with Sunrise on 7.
School students in New South Wales will be allowed to wear the traditional Palestinian scarf known as a keffiyeh. It comes after a boy launched legal action after being banned from his 2024 Year 12 formal for wearing it and a Palestinian flag. He reached a confidential settlement with the state's education department, which has now clarified its guidance on cultural garments. Banks are marking a major milestone in the fight against fraud. A security feature rolled out last year that prevents risky transfers has passed 100 million uses. Consumer Affairs editor Georgia Holland reports.
Good afternoon. Thousands of Australians have been stopped from sending money straight to scammers. Confirmation of payee is used by 82 financial institutions, covering more than 140 million bank accounts. When a customer makes a first-time payment using a BSB and account number, the security feature checks if those details match and warns if they don't. It was introduced in July and has now been used more than 100 million times, and it's working.
One bank has reported that over 450,000 transactions have been stopped because a customer's received a no-match result.
In one case in regional New South Wales, a customer went into a Greater Bank branch to pay a concreting deposit of $6,000. But when the business details didn't match, staff ran an ABN search, and when that looked off, they didn't make the payment. And lucky too, because it turns out it was a scam.
After this incident, we had 2 BSB and account numbers that were given to us by the scammers. We have then sent that to our fraud team, and they have contacted the other financial institutions to put a stop on those accounts.
Australians lost more than $300 million to scammers last year. It's hoped security tech like this will help bring that figure down.
Thanks, Georgia. The latest search for Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 has drawn a blank. The jet, with 239 passengers and crew on board, disappeared in March 2014 en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. A company called Ocean Infinity recently completed scanning 7,500 square kilometres of seabed in the Indian Ocean, but it found nothing. The company is working on a no-find, no-fee basis with the Malaysian government, but stands to earn $100 million if it locates the plane. Families of the missing are urging that the contract be extended. A huge fire has broken out in the heart of Glasgow. The flames have torn through the 4-storey central train station. It broke out at around 4 in the afternoon, with an explosion in a vape store being investigated as the cause. All services through what is Scotland's busiest railway station have been suspended. The fallout continues from the former Prince Andrew's links to Jeffrey Epstein, with his daughter, Princess Eugenie, stepping down as charity patron. The 35-year-old had been involved with the world's oldest human rights organisation, Anti-Slavery International, for 7 years. Just ahead on 7 News, the Grand Prix packs up after a record-breaking crowd at Albert Park for the F1 season opener. And in sport, a reality check for the Broncos after a dismal season opener.
When the world is changing and it impacts us, Australia turns to 7. Australia turns to trust. Chief Correspondent Chris Reason leads our team
inside the conflict zone
from sunrise to 6 p.m.
on 7 News.
The checkered flag has fallen on the season-opening Australian Grand Prix, and now the race is on to return Melbourne's Albert Park to normal. As Jordan Quinn reports, as successful as it's been, the city isn't about to step in for any cancelled races in the Middle East.
Good afternoon. The clean-up is underway here at Albert Park, with the Australian Grand Prix now over for another year. Oscar Piastri fans are still coming to terms with yesterday's devastating crash right before the race. And only hours after George Russell took the checkered flag, he and teammate Kimi Antonelli, who finished second, jetted straight out to Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix that kicks off on Friday. There were plenty of waiting fans outside their hotel trying to get a glimpse of their heroes one final time.
Ran into a few of the drivers at Crown, which was really cool, so like Sergio Perez and as well as Isaac Hadjar last night as well.
It was great. I was there and amazing, but it was quite sad seeing Oscar out before the race even started.
It's like once a year, so you don't really get like that much of an opportunity to see them.
This weekend's crowd of 483,000 over the 4 days was record-breaking, eclipsing last year's attendance by about 20,000. Now at Albert Park, the pack-down is certainly in full swing, which is expected to take between 6 to 8 weeks. And although there's been no official confirmation, it's an extremely telling sign we most likely will not be hosting a second race this year to make up for one of the Middle East races, which are expected to be cancelled.
F1 hasn't approached us about a second race. In fact, they haven't
made any announcements about the cancellation of existing races.
Like most of the other drivers, Oscar Piastri flew out to China late last night. He no doubt will be wanting to get his season back on track, and the entire nation is behind him.
And staying with sport, here's Steve.
Yeah, thanks very much, Max. Good afternoon, everyone. The Broncos say they have no issue under the high ball as they prepare for an aerial assault against Parramatta's Mitchell Moses on Thursday night at Suncorp Stadium. The concerns come after Nathan Cleary exposed a possible chink in the Broncos' armour in the opening round.
Everyone's got a role to play when the kick goes up, and we just can't stop moving our feet until we get the ball back.
Us as a back five will have a meeting, have a chat, do what we can do to improve, so we can get those high balls.
Meanwhile, former Eel Zach Lomax has switched to rugby union, signing a 2-year deal with the Western Force. Suns debutant Zeke Yuland has proved he can mix it at the highest level with an impressive debut against the Cats. His first touch was one to forget out on the full, but he recovered with 16 disposals in a solid outing.
In the lead-up, we had great training preparations and also our analysis of the opposition and how we're going to approach the game. So we had really set tasks that we wanted to focus on, and we had KPIs to that. So, we executed it really well.
Teammate Leo Lombard has been awarded the AFL's Rising Star nomination for the opening round. The Matildas face a tougher path to Asian Cup glory than hoped after a high-scoring 3-3 draw with South Korea. The Aussies needed a win to clinch top spot in Group A and remain in Sydney. Instead, they'll now fly to Perth to face China or North Korea in Friday's quarter-final.
In tournaments, we all want it to go perfect. We all want it to go fantastic, and there's always a little hiccup along the way. In the end, we still haven't lost the game.
The Matildas could be without vice-captain Steph Catley after being struck in the head by a ball. Max, the latest on the suspension of Harris Andrews at 6.
All right, thanks, Steve. See you then. After the break in the afternoon news, mounting concerns at the Trump administration's attitude to Russia's involvement in the war. The Bundaberg region on alert as floodwaters move downstream. And later, after the weather, Prince Harry and Meghan will visit Australia for the first time in 7 years.
Live across Queensland, this is 7 News with Max Futcher.
Recapping our top stories this afternoon, and a sea of red on the Australian Stock Exchange. The ASX 200 plunges almost 3% as the price of oil soars. Iran installs another hardline leader, the son of the former Ayatollah, given the supreme job as Iran vows no surrender. And schools closed and hundreds of roads cut by floodwaters across the state. We'll have more on the situation shortly. Well, Iran has named a new supreme leader. Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei is the son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in strikes at the start of the war. Like his father, the 56-year-old is considered a hardliner. The announcement brought regime supporters out onto the streets of Tehran. Meantime, thick smoke is still blanketing the capital as a fuel depot struck on Saturday continues to burn. While there's been no let-up in Iranian drones and missile attacks on Israel, a barrage striking at the town in the heart of the country. Among the targets, a kindergarten. And the US has confirmed the death of a 7th soldier since the start of the war. They've been wounded in a strike on Saudi Arabia at the start of the campaign. Meanwhile, there's mounting disquiet in the US over the Trump administration's response to Russia's involvement in the war. The president has eased sanctions on Russian oil exports, even though intelligence shows it's providing targeting information to Tehran.
Iran's foreign minister is adding new fuel to the complex dangers around President Trump's war, the shadow of Russia and its ties to Tehran.
Is Russia helping you locate U.S. forces? I just want to be very clear here.
Well, I don't have exact military information. As far as I know, we have a very good partnership with Russia.
At issue, Russia has been providing intelligence to Iran about the location of U.S. forces, according to 4 sources with knowledge.
Military cooperation between Iran and Russia is not something new. It's not a secret. It has been in the past and is still there and will continue in the future.
However, the Trump administration publicly questions Russia's role in this new war. Today, Energy Secretary Chris Wright.
Well, there's been rumors of that. We don't know if that's true or not. Certainly, they've gotten a strong message from us.
President Trump did not acknowledge any message to Moscow and did not raise alarm about Russia aiding Iran.
I have had no indication of that whatsoever.
President Trump's handling of Iran is drawing concern from a majority of the American public. 54% disapprove, while 41% approve. In new polling from NBC News, the president's overall standing has remained steady since October. His latest job approval at 44%, with 54% saying they disapprove.
Here, there are mounting calls for Australia to offer the Iranian women's soccer team political asylum. They wound up their Asian Cup campaign on the Gold Coast last night. And as Michael Hammond reports, they face an uncertain future at home after being branded traitors by the regime.
Good afternoon. The team remains holed up here in their Gold Coast hotel, their tournament over and their futures deeply uncertain. There were chaotic scenes last night as the Iranian women left Rabina Stadium following their Asian Cup loss to the Philippines. Demonstrators surrounding the team bus chanting, "Let them go and save our girls." Police were forced to push the crowd back with several protesters tackled. The rally reflecting growing fears for the players' safety if they return home. Some players on board were also seen to be making hand gestures, interpreted by some as cries for help.
If they go back, they will kill them. For sure, they will execute them.
We gotta save them, man.
There's a video of them showing a help sign. Literally a help sign. There's multiple of them in the bus showing the help sign. We don't trust the translators that they have.
A peaceful protest was also staged out the front of the Southport police station. Earlier in the tournament, the team had refused to sing Iran's national anthem, widely viewed as a silent protest against the regime. Iranian state media branded the players traitors, fueling fears their lives could be at risk if they do return. It's possible the women could seek asylum while still in Australia.
They would be ideal candidates for temporary protection visas, and the government should look at quickly bringing back legislation into the House.
If not the Australian government, FIFA needs to be stepping up their game. They have to be intervening.
It's unclear what support, if any, our own government will provide them. Whichever path the players ultimately choose to take, it could have a bearing not only on them but their families as well. We'll have more details coming up in 7 News tonight at 6.
Michael Hammond there. Returning to the flood situation in the Western Downs, and the SES says it's received more than 100 calls for assistance since Saturday morning. Today, 10 schools and more than 150 roads are closed from Cairns to the Sunshine Coast, while more than 20 rivers have current flood warnings. The Weather Bureau is confident most of the rain from the tropical low will have eased by tonight or early tomorrow. However, there's still a huge amount of water in central Queensland, making its way slowly towards the coast, and the Bundaberg region is set to be among the worst impacted. Sienna Bell reports.
Today is expected to be the worst of the wet weather across the Bundaberg region, but residents are being urged to stay alert as the floodwaters make their way downstream. It was a tricky commute to work and school this morning, a risky move by this pair that didn't end well. The causeway at Bagara went under, but it didn't stop one driver trying to cross. Police and swift water crews had to step in, pulling him and his young passenger to safety.
They've got better things to do than try and look after idiots who drive through flooded roads.
If it is flooded, absolutely forget it. You are putting other people's lives at risk.
The rain is set to hang around, with predictions of up to 120 mils in some areas overnight. The biggest flooding concern right now is for Gayndah, 2 hours southwest of Bundaberg. Sandbagging stations are up and running for anxious locals.
When the backyard gets wet, the soil swells and then everything comes in through the downstairs area. So, yeah, we've got to bag up the door, otherwise it comes through ankle deep.
The Weather Bureau says the current wet weather may not be the last of it, with forecasts of another drenching later in the week.
Thanks, Sienna. The future of a critical fertiliser plant in northwest Queensland has been secured, at least in the short term. Garth Burley joins me in the studio. Garth, Phosphate Hill has been sold for $1.
Well, that's the price at the moment, Max, but it could end up costing $100 million if the new owners can turn things around and meet a number of performance targets. Explosive company Dyno Nobel announced today that its struggling fertiliser plant will now be taken over by new owner Mayfair. The plant near Mount Isa is the only one of its kind in Australia and is crucial for farmers. It employs more than 500 and its survival is critical to the future of the nearby Glencore smelter, which was given a $600 million bailout by the federal and state governments. Still, that facility was heading towards closure later this year had a buyer for the fertiliser plant not been found. Today's news has been met with relief from the Mount Isa mayor as well as both levels of government. This sale shoring up more than 1,000 jobs for now. Max, Mayfair will take over the fertiliser plant at the end of next month.
All right, thanks, Garth. A former New South Wales state MP has just been cleared of 8 child sex charges, but the jury was unable to reach a verdict on 2 remaining counts, meaning Rory Auden could face a retrial. Leonie Ryan is in court.
Well, this trial started 18 days ago. The jury retired to consider those charges last Wednesday afternoon. This afternoon, they came back on 8 of them and were hung on the remaining 2. That's despite the judge telling them last Friday he would accept a majority 11-1, but the foreperson told the court they were deadlocked. Rory Auden was charged with rape, attempted rape and committing an act of indecency on a child aged under 16. Anything to say? The former state MP and councillor for Sydney's Northern Beaches was alleged to have committed the offences on a boy who was 13 at the time. He was 27. It's claimed they first started chatting on a dating app before moving the conversation to Snapchat and eventually meeting up in 2017. Auden was found not guilty on counts 3 to 10, which included charges of rape, attempted rape and indecent assault, but the jury was deadlocked on 2 other counts, having sexual intercourse with a person between the ages of 10 and 14. Do you think the jury got it right? That means Rory Auden could still stand trial again on those 2 remaining charges. He'll return to this same court to be rearranged, where he'll enter his not guilty pleas, and the prosecution will give an indication where it plans to go from there.
In just a moment, charged a fee for an Australian tourist pilgrimage. How much you'll be charged to visit the 12 Apostles? And putting a bin chicken on your car.
When the world is changing and it impacts us, Australia turns to 7. Australia turns to trust. Chief Correspondent Chris Reason leads our team
inside the conflict zone
from sunrise to 6 p.m.
on 7 News.
To breaking news, and 2 Australian men convicted of the shooting murder of a Melbourne man in Bali have been sentenced this afternoon. 27-year-old Payat Tapo and 22-year-old Mevlut Koskin have each been given 16 years by a judge in Denpasar. The family of the victim, Zivan Radmanovic, were in court and expressed shock that the sentences were below the 18 years requested by the prosecution. A third man convicted over the killing, Darcy Jensen, is still awaiting his sentence. Premeditated murder carries the death penalty in Indonesia. Checking finance now, and a surge in the price of oil has dragged the local share market to its steepest losses in almost a year. Here's Michael McCarley from ING Bank.
Good afternoon. The Aussie share market had its worst session since April, plunging 252 points or nearly 3% as the price of oil skyrockets to well above $100 a barrel. It comes as the Strait of Hormuz, crucial for a fifth of the world's oil supply, remains effectively closed as the conflict between the US and Iran intensifies. The sell-off wiped about $90 billion off the ASX 200, extending on last week's heavy losses, with the market now down 7% since just Monday. One of the only positives was that it could have been worse. The ASX had fallen over 4% around lunchtime, which would have been its biggest wipeout since COVID-19 in 2020. Every sector finished in the red today, except energy stocks after oil climbed to its highest levels since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Global oil and gas supplier Santos rallied 2.5%. Materials was the worst performing sector, led by a 5% drop to mining giant BHP after iron ore stockpiles in China hit a record high. It was a sea of red for technology stocks, while the major banks added to market losses, with ANZ down 2%. And in currency markets, the Aussie dollar has regained some ground and is currently buying about 70 US cents.
Thanks, Michael. Well, any drive along Victoria's Great Ocean Road demands a stop at the famed 12 Apostles. But as Rochelle Brown reports, tourists will now have to pay a fee to view the natural wonder.
Right now, anyone can take in the iconic landmark for free, but soon visitors will be subject to a tourist tax. It's unclear at this stage how much they will be charged. The state government says the fee will be determined following a consultation period with local councils and businesses, and locals will be exempt. A booking system will be introduced to manage visitor numbers and guarantee parking at peak times. The funds will be collected to maintain landmarks and visitor facilities along the Great Ocean Road.
Every single dollar will go back into the Great Ocean Road. So steps going down to access beaches or toilets or life-saving club upgrades or car parking. We want to make sure the Great Ocean Road is there for the next 100 years. We cannot be the generation that lets it fall away.
Because the Allen Labor government has mismanaged the books, mismanaged the budgets for a decade, Victorians are now going to have to pay an admission fee.
More than 6 million tourists visit the Great Ocean Road each year. 2 million of them visit the 12 Apostles, though there are just 7 of the limestone stacks remaining due to erosion. Similar fees are in place at attractions overseas like Rome's Trevi Fountain and at several popular Australian destinations, including Uluru, the Kosciuszko National Park and Tasmania's Wineglass Bay Lookout. The fees are likely to coincide with the opening of the new $126 million visitor centre at the end of the year.
Considered a pest by many, a symbol of Brisbane by others, there's no ignoring the bin chicken. Now you can show your love for the ibis with a personalised number plate. The idea came from Brisbane Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner.
Having a bin chicken on a number plate is perfectly Queensland. It's a perfectly Brisbane thing to do.
It's part of a new range of emoji plates that also feature a mango, a cane toad and a laid-back koala. The plates cost $495. Just ahead after the weather, a royal return. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex headed our way next month. And rain continues to fall across the southeast this afternoon. This is a look at Brisbane right now. It's currently 23 degrees. Tony has the forecast next. Tonight, ASX bloodbath, billions wiped, oil prices surge. The Iranian footballers' desperate act as wild scenes erupt outside Seabus. Remarkable rescues in Queensland's weather emergency. Tony Auden's forecast. And meet the painter from Pullenvale who's attracting the attention of celebrities. 7 News at 6.
Good afternoon, Queensland. You're watching 7 News. Checking the weather now, and the rain has continued to fall across southern Queensland today with some significant river rises in some areas. Only steady soaking rain for much of the southeast today, but it has been heavier up north. Decent falls for the Wide Bay, but over the last couple of hours we've seen these really nasty storms moving through Gladstone. Falls over 200 millimetres for parts of the catchment, rapid river rises. The rain itself is likely to clear the city in the next 10 or 20 minutes, but there's a lot of water there around. No surprises, we have a storm warning current for the area with the immediate threat for flash flooding in red here. A more general severe weather warning in yellow here, talking about heavy rain and damaging winds. It's likely to be updated soon with a much smaller area contracting towards the coast. That rain should clear by about midnight. As it does, a low is expected to spin up off the southeast coast into tomorrow. That will drive gusty winds onto the beaches. We're looking at gusts about 50 k's an hour for the Gold and Sunshine Coasts. Now across the nation tomorrow, nothing too dramatic. A couple of showers around Sydney. Hobart could see some rain late at night, but dry for most of the day. And Adelaide heating up, sunshine, 32. Back up to the Queensland tropics, a couple of storms likely around Cairns and Cape York Peninsula. Townsville catching a couple of showers off the edge of that, and drier for the Whitsundays and Mackay with a possible shower. Heading south and a big change. Just the odd lingering shower after the rain clears overnight, but of course watch for all of that floodwater already in the catchments. Gympie looking at a top of 30 degrees. In the southeast, also drying up. A couple of showers on the coast, mostly dry inland, and we start to warm up again with a couple of sunny breaks returning. Brisbane 20 up to 29 degrees. Then what can we expect for the rest of the week? Max, I'll have tomorrow's forecast, or the full forecast, and the latest warnings coming up at 6.
All right, thanks, Tony. Well, Prince Harry and Meghan have confirmed they'll tour Australia next month. As Ben Downey reports, they're yet to announce where they'll be visiting and exactly what they'll be doing.
It's confirmed. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex's first visit to Australia in nearly 8 years, just a little over a month away. But unlike the couple's last visit to Australia as working members of the royal family, Prince Harry and Meghan, according to their spokesperson, will be, quote, taking part in a number of private, business and philanthropic engagements. Philanthropy is what took Harry and Meghan on their most recent trip to Jordan. What that work looks like in April in Australia, though, is unclear, with their spokesperson saying, quote, further details will be shared in due course. That has set the rumour mill running that Meghan could appear on radio queen Jackie O's podcast, the show she's taken a hiatus from in the aftermath of the extremely public and potentially expensive split with Kyle Sandilands, with the belief of royal guests could see Jackie O return to her role. We also don't know whether the couple's children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, will join them or remain in Montecito, but what is likely is Prince Harry meeting Australian veterans through his Invictus Games work, so really not long now until all is revealed.
And that's Queensland's afternoon news for this Monday. Stay with us now for The Chase, then 7 News at 6. I'm Max Futcher. I'll see you then.